The first violins are over here. The second violins are over here. The cellos are over here. And the violas are on the outside with the double basses along the wall to my right. Woodwinds are also relatively consistent in most orchestras. They sit right behind the strings. It's usually a flute section, then an oboe section. Behind the flutes is the clarinet section. Behind the oboes is the bassoon section. That is pretty much the way it works with almost every orchestra. The brass and percussion, however, are another matter altogether. They can be separated. In England, for instance, the French horns tend to occupy a space way over there, separated from the trombones, trumpet, and tuba, who are on this side. In Detroit, we put the horns right behind the clarinets and bassoons. Percussion, again, there are a myriad of options. In Detroit, we place the timpani in the back, in the center. And the percussion, harps, piano, go on that side.
Let's meet the woodwind section, going from the lowest instrument to the highest. The Contra Bassoon.
Hi, I'm Luke Whitehead, and this is the Contra Bassoon. The contra is made of over 5 meters of tubing, which is turned out of maple. It's made in various sections to achieve the folding over of the instrument with little U-bends, as you can see, at various points. This is topped off with a lead pipe, which runs up to the crook. The crook, it forms the link between the instrument and the reed. You can have different lengths of crook which vary the pitch and intonation of the instrument slightly.
The bassoons.
My name's Amy Harmon and I'm Principal Bassoon of the Philharmonia Orchestra. The bassoon is a woodwind instrument and you play it by using double reeds, which are so called because it's 2 pieces of bamboo tied together, and when you blow it vibrates. You then attach it onto this metal pipe, which is called a crook, and the air goes in all the way down and up again. It's got a series of holes which are open and closed by pressing keys which change the pitch. It's got a very large range and you can play very low. And then also very high. And then everything in between.
the clarinets.
The bass clarinet is part of a huge family. I mean, you've got over a dozen different clarinets. So going from the A flat, which is about that big, to the octo contrabass, which is about twice as big as the bass clarinet. And most of the clarinets, bass clarinets, are made of African hardwood, which we call blackwood or grenadier. If I blow like that without anything on the mouthpiece, I'm not getting any sound. What you need for that, it's what we call a reed. So reeds are made of cane. They have different shapes, different strength, different sizes rather than different shapes to fit to different mouthpieces. That's a piece of cane, rectangular shape, rounded at the top. So you put that on the mouthpiece like that. That's what we call the ligature. It's going to hold the reed on the mouthpiece. That's not going to be very nice. So that's the sound without the rest of the bass clarinet. Thanks to the reed vibrating, you're going to blow through the instrument, and doing that, the reed is going to vibrate. It's going to create the sound.
The clarinet is basically just a cylindrical wooden tube with finger holes, so that as I take more fingers off the instrument, the pitch will rise. Like that, and a lot of metal keys in order to enable me to play all the notes in between those notes, the chromatic notes. And some of that metalwork is to enable us to play trills, for example, quite rapidly and efficiently. Now, the reed, which is a quite simple piece of wood, you see at one end it's a piece of cane which has been cut so it tapers to a very, very thin tip, so thin I can even put it on my thumbnail and it will show flexibility, and that's what makes the sound.
The oboes.
The modern oboe has approximately 46 pieces of keywork, the functions of which vary from simply covering the main tone holes, these 6 keys here, to trill keys, and also these keys on the back, which your thumb operates to help you play into the higher octaves. Because the opening at the top of the reed is very small, the oboe demands a lot of pressure and it's quite hard work. It helps to start notes using the tongue, like this.
The flutes.
Hi, I'm Sam Coles. I'm the principal flute in the Philharmonia. The flute is a member of the woodwind family, and it differs from the other woodwind instruments in that it doesn't have a reed, and you make the sound by blowing across this little hole here and lengthening or shortening the tube with your fingers. Theobald Boehm came up with this idea in the middle of the 19th century of making a cylindrical flute out of metal, which gave you much more dexterity, you could whiz around much quicker, and it was a much more powerful instrument. So that's what he did, and that's what he came up with, and that's what we're still playing today.
The piccolo.
Hi, I'm Keith Bragg, and I'm the piccolo player in the Philharmonia Orchestra. This is my instrument, the piccolo. It's the smallest instrument in the flute section, and it's roughly half the length of an ordinary concert flute. The notes that it plays are an octave higher than those of the concert flute. It has three distinctive colours of register. The low register is soft and mellifluous. In the middle register, it becomes rather sprightly, perky, quite pretty. And then in the high register, it can become very strident and actually can cut through the sound of an entire orchestra playing at full volume and add a kind of edge to the sound. It's really an orchestral instrument more than a solo instrument. There are some solo works written for the piccolo, but in culinary terms, I think of the piccolo as being like the spice in the orchestra, like the chili. And whereas people would like to eat a meal that has chili in it, they'd rather not eat a meal which is entirely chili. And for that reason, I think it is at its best when played in the symphony orchestra.
Together, the woodwind section sounds like this. That is the woodwind section.
Thank you.